Good morning, and greeting from Random Lake, Wisconsin. Early this year, I joined the Congregation Council, and in April, I was invited to serve on the Investments, Endowment, and Grants Committee, or IEGC. The committee voted to make me the chairperson. It is an honor to serve the congregation in these roles. This morning, we hope to enhance the congregation's understanding of IEGC's purpose and work with a focus on how it can further the mission of St. Paul's. But first, let me introduce the current members of the committee. Our vice chair is Diane Harrop. Jean Binion is the secretary. Treasurer is Joanne Engler. Liddell Daly and Pastor Ann round out the committee. The IEGC was established as part of St. Paul's merger with St. Matthias in October 2022 to oversee three areas. The first is gifts. The committee reviews all gifts offered to the congregation, including a review to make sure that gifts are received according to our policies. It then makes recommendations to the council and makes sure all gifts are recognized with gratitude. Second, the committee oversees the Endowment and Tithe Fund, reviewing requests for funds and making recommendations to the council. Finally, the IEGC oversees investment administration and management according to our policies. Now we'd like to share a little bit more about the history of the Endowment and Tithe Fund.
In the early 1990s, leadership of the congregation became aware that several families had bequests to the congregation as part of their estate planning. Wisely, leadership at that time formed a task force in anticipation of these and other potential gifts. The endowment fund was established with the approval of the congregation, and then bequests began to be received. The first donors included Irene Wassemeyer, the Bergs, John and Ruth Elliott, and Allison Galbraith. Gifts large and small began to add up.
And now, while Joanne Engler continues to speak to us about our past endowment history, as well as our financial hopes for the future here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, please enjoy these many photos as we've shared in the glory of God with several organizations along the way.
Then in 2001, Agnes Carlson died. She and her husband Clarence were snowbirds from Crystal Lake, Illinois. They had no children and 2 church homes they loved. Clarence was an early employee of PepsiCo and had acquired stock when it was pennies a share. They lived modestly. No one knew the depth of their estate. Both loved music and had made gifts to support the music ministry. After Clarence died, Agnes would show up to choir rehearsals just to listen. Their estate was divided in half, with St. Paul's receiving roughly $1.5 million. 50% of that gift was put into our endowment. With $750,000 added to the endowment, we now had more than $1.5 million invested, producing an annual income of about $85,000. These funds were allocated by the endowment committee. Funds were used for a part-time parish nurse and a part-time youth director, as well as improvements to the property. In 2008 and 2009, the economic downturn and the ongoing diminishing size of congregations took its toll. The congregation votes to begin to use the principle of the endowment for operations. It was hoped that this would be temporary, but the continuing decline of membership made this an ongoing necessity. It was believed that the endowment would be depleted within 10 years. That didn't happen, as other bequests and gifts were added over the years, ranging from $25 to $60,000. Our latest gift was from Carol Dunn, who established her own ministry endowment, which will gift to our endowment annually. As of April 30th, our endowment has a balance of just over $412,000. When the building is sold, we will finally be able to return to using only interest from the endowment for ministry purposes.
When St. Paul's and St. Matthias merged in October of 2022, we became responsible for managing the remaining funds from the St. Matthias Tithe Fund. This was relatively a new fund created when St. Matthias sold their property. At the time of the sale, the members of St. Matthias voted to tithe 10% of the proceeds of the sale into a fund that they would use to support ministry outside of the congregation. It was a bold and beautiful act of faith for a congregation that was determined to live on and had no idea where God was leading. With these funds, St. Matthias was able to help a congregation that had a fire, and most notably in 2021, wiped out the medical debt of 1,639 families in Pinellas County. This fund still holds about $35,000 available for grant giving through the IEGC. Today, the IEGC considers grant applications submitted by the congregation to support ministry outside of the congregation. Most recently, we have approved grants for Good Neighbors, Farm Workers Self-Help, the Mitzvah Day, the Pride Parade Outreach, and the 2024 Good Friday Sung Passion with Trinity and Hope Lutheran Churches. Do you know of a ministry outside of the congregation or willing to work with our congregation that could use financial assistance for their ministry? You can work with the IEGC members to write a grant. Most grants today range between $500 and $1,000. If you have an idea, talk to one of the members of the committee or to Pastor Ann. We'll help you put a grant proposal together. In our history, we can see our future.
When the church property is finally sold, we will have new financial resources to put into ministry. This will require a time of discernment. We will finally be able to return the endowment to its original intent, and we will have a corpus of money that will generate enough interest and dividends to support the daily operations of the congregation. If we discern that we want to own our own property again, we would need to become independent of both the endowment and the investment accounts first. This is a long way off. But every plan begins with a dream. Once we resolve the legal issues with the building and either complete the sale or find another buyer, the council will lead us in discernment concerning our own potential tithe from the sale of our property. It is an exciting time to be part of St. Paul's Lutheran, as long as you like an adventure and you don't mind sitting in the tension of knowing God is up to something, but not quite sure where that's going to take you. These are days for us to rely on the Holy Spirit's leading. Today, I invite you to dream. Whose ministry can we support financially? What ministry can we do with faith partners? Today, I invite you to pray. First, for a resolution to the sale of the church property, a resolution that is fair to all involved. And then for wisdom as we step into a new era of being St. Paul's Lutheran Church. Pray that we will continue to be faithful disciples and witnesses to the gospel in all we do. Thank you.